Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm here today to share with you my November TBR, and here we are, second to last TBR of the year. Hard to believe, but anyway. So I think I've been making really large TBRs for myself for the last 2 months, and November is not that much of an exception. I have put a lot of books on here. I haven't been necessarily reading more than I was earlier this year, so these large TBRs are kind of carrying over, but I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself because this is my happy place. So I'm just going to continue to make these larger TBRs and then get to the books or not, and not worry too much about them. You can always see if I end up reading them or DNFing them in my monthly wrap-ups. I wrap up every book I read, regardless of when it gets finished in a month. So I am carrying over 2 books from my October TBR into November. One of them is The King's Evil by Andrew Taylor. This is the 3rd book in his Marwood and Lovett mystery series. These are historical mysteries set in London post the fire in the 17th century during the reign of Charles II. I love these. I would say this is my first time that I've fallen in love with a mystery series. I love the characterization. I love the way the plot unfolds, and I have usually been listening to these on audio. So this is my first time reading a hard copy, and I am enjoying reading it in hard copy too, but I do think I prefer the audio just because I love the narrator's style and how he tells the story. So this will be one that I finish up in November, and I'm also carrying over this poetry book. So this is the Sparrow, Selected Poems by A.F. Moritz, and I didn't know, I put this onto my TBR for some reason. Maybe it was because it was called the Sparrow and this had this beautiful bird painting on the cover. But I also feel like I was maybe looking up something else on my library's catalog and came across this. I didn't realize how thick it is. It's a really huge bind up of his poems, and I don't even know much about him. So 358 pages of poems. He's a Canadian poet. So I've read, just over 50 almost 60 pages of the book, and so far I think the poems are fine. I haven't found any that I love, but I also am enjoying them enough to keep going. But I might. Some of them are quite long, and so I'm kind of being more selective on which ones I'm reading. But I'm going to read this into November, and I may even take this into December if I'm still going with it. It'll be my last poetry collection probably of 2024. So on to the newer things that I've added to my TBR for this month. So I have a series on my channel of videos called Bloomsbury Diaries. These videos are about my obsession for Virginia Woolf and the Bloomsbury Group, which kind of started coming to a head in 2020. And I made a series of videos, not a lot. I think there's like 4, maybe 3 videos in this thing. And there's another one that I've been meaning to make for 2 years about Virginia Woolf's diary, which I'm hoping to do in November. And so what I've been trying to do is, once I make the video about the book in that diary series, I start the next one. And so one of the things I've been wanting to do, I've been collecting these books and thinking about the order of the Bloomsbury group that I want to read about and all these different things. And because I have so many interests and so many different little TBRs, they sometimes get pushed off for months or years in between. But this month I decided that my audiobook was going to be Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And I've already read Mrs. Dalloway in hard copy, and I didn't particularly like it. But I want to reread it because I want to read The Hours by Michael Cunningham, which is based on the pace and the tone of Mrs. Dalloway. So I saw this film first. I read Mrs. Dalloway after, didn't really get it, I would say. And then wanted to read the book that the film was based on. And I thought you should really listen to Mrs. Dalloway and read The Hours at the same time. And I think that will help you maybe appreciate it more. So that is my plan. Currently, the audiobook is checked out by someone else. And so I'm waiting for that to come in. And I'm assuming I'm going to be reading both this book and listening to Mrs. Dalloway near mid to late November. So I'm excited to finally get to this book. I'm excited to re-listen to Mrs. Dalloway and see how I feel about it the second time. And I'm excited to actually rewatch the film as well once I've done this little project, and then I will probably make a video about it. It may not be until the new year, but it's one that you can expect going forward. Okay. The other thing that has been occurring to me about my library TBR, and I'm actually contemplating making a separate video about this too, is that when I put books on there, they can sit on that list for years. And so this is one of the books that has been sitting on there for years. I do not remember who recommended this book, why I put it on the list. I love this cover. I just adore the way this book looks. And it's a Susanna Clarke book, which of course Susanna Clarke Piranesi is one of, and she wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So I've heard of her about that. And then I know she wrote the Piranesi book, which was nominated for awards in the last few years. This is a collection of short stories of hers. So they're short stories about petulant princesses, vengeful owls, ladies who pass their time embroidering terrible fates, endless paths in deep dark woods, and houses that never appear the same way twice. So I wanted to read this because it's near the back of my library TBR. So the book has been on there a really long time. And what I've noticed is when I don't get through the books fast enough, the library sometimes takes them out of the collection and then I miss my chance to read it. I also have not read any short stories this year. So that's kind of a little hole in my reading of 2024, is that I haven't read any short story collections. So this is going to fill that. It's also going to give me an introduction into Susanna Clarke's style, and then I'm going to see if I would like to read more of her work. So that is The Ladies of Grace Adieu. And I'm also going to be reading The Secret Life of Sunflowers by Marta Molnar, but the actual author's name is Dana Martin. So I'm not sure why she put both of her names on the title. I find pen names to be a really interesting phenomena that I don't really understand, because if you reveal that you are the author, then why bother putting a pen name on? Maybe somebody knows that little mystery and can tell me about it in the comments down below. I find it very confusing. But anyway, this book is the final book club read for the Thrive Together Network, which is a female and non-binary artists network that I have belonged to for the last 2 or 3 years. The network is actually closing down at the end of 2024. But I have run their book club and enjoyed that very much. This book is about Johanna van Gogh, who was Theo van Gogh's wife, who inherited all of Vincent van Gogh's paintings and basically was instrumental in making his paintings what they are today. So he died before he had any recognition as an artist. She championed him. She knew his work had value. So this is about her. It's actually, I believe, a self-published book. So it's very interesting to me. And I'll be leading a discussion about this on the 15th of November. And so yeah, I'm very intrigued as to what this book will be like. Okay, and then the final book, like I said, this is a large TBR for me. I have no idea if I'm going to get to all these books, but anyway. The last book that I have taken off my library list, another one that's been on there for a very long time, is Dreaming in Color, an autobiography by Kaffe Fassett. So Kaffe Fassett is a quite famous designer. His work is extremely colorful, extremely vibrant. And this is his, sharing of his life story and how he became the designer he became. And I know him mostly as a fabric designer because he does collections for different fabric companies that a lot of quilters use. And I'm trying to find an example of that in here, but I can't. So, okay, here we go. This is an example of his fabric. So very bright, very colorful, very full of pattern. Not necessarily even my style, but I'm just really interested in creative people and what inspires them and how they develop as people creatively, from the beginning of their careers to the end. And so again, I'm not committing to reading this entire book. So first of all, oh, somebody left something in this book. Weird. I just found this in here. This little piece of art or something. Somebody must have not realized they left that in there. Anyway, that just distracted me from what I was saying. So I'm gonna check this out. If I like the writing style and I'm interested in his life, then I'll read the whole thing. If not, I will just look through it and kind of skim it. So that's my reading for November. It's nonfiction November. As you can see, I don't have a lot of nonfiction on here. And I think that's okay for me. It is the last nonfiction November. If you have not watched Olive's video, check it out down below. I usually am very enthusiastic about participating in nonfiction November, and I am not enthusiastic about it, just that I've been reading a ton of nonfiction this year. So I don't feel as driven to create a big nonfiction TBR right now for November because I've already been reading so much throughout the year. So I feel okay about that. And I do have plans for this month to make a video of recommendations for nonfiction by Black women authors. So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited about that video. And yeah, that is it for now. That is my TBR for the month of November of 2024. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back again soon with another video.